In the near future, a new illness called ARDS spreads all over the world and causes society to collapse. At first an infected person will just have normal symptoms like fever, but soon they'll lose their sanity and only talk rubbish. This is why they're known as talkers. The disease is transmitted through speech, so anyone going outside must wear special headphones. All these new laws are reinforced by the Anti-Epidemic Institution or AEI, who puts infected people in quarantine zones. There's been riots everywhere against this organization because they're seen as taking advantage of the situation. In Istanbul, there's a curfew of 6 p.m. inside the safe zones. Linguist Murat is immune to the disease because he has synesthesia, meaning he sees hallucinations while hearing sounds. Hearing the talkers gives him severe headaches that raise the temperature in his skull for a few seconds. He keeps track of his condition by listening to recordings and checking on his temperature. All this process is recorded in a bunch of cassettes. One day, Murat sees Sule reading at the bus stop without headphones. He imagines how it'd be to approach her, but he doesn't dare and walks away when Sule looks up. Afterward he ignores the AEI signs and sneaks past a guard to stay with his mother ML, who asks him to go shopping. Since Murat just got here he's supposed to stay inside for a few days, but ML makes him go anyway. On his way out, Murat completes ML's Sudoku puzzle in seconds just to annoy her in return. On the way to the store, Murat finds the bus stop empty but discovers Sule left a letter for him that makes him smile. While waiting in line at the store, a talker appears and begins talking nonsense, causing everyone to panic. All the clients run out while an employee brings down a gate that leaves Murat and a kid with no headphones trapped with the talker. Murat feels bad for the child so he gives him his own headphones and tries to save him. The talker keeps speaking to him while he struggles with the door, giving Murat a severe headache. After lifting the gate enough for the kid to return to his family, Murat grabs some frozen goods and escapes through the back door. He stops at an alley and puts the frozen food on his head to bring down the temperature while hearing the police sirens nearby. Murat rushes home to calm himself down but he keeps seeing hallucinations of his old friend Oscar, so ML reminds him of the medicine he was given a few years ago. At AEI headquarters, Chief Officer Anton is informed of the incident at the store and how Murat was seen on the security cameras. He makes his agents investigate him and learns that Murat has been to the hospital many times because of his headaches. He also hears about something called Project X. Seeing that the cameras prove Murat has a high fever but he isn't a talker, Anton announces they must capture him to study his possible immunity. Soon an agent recovers Murat's headphones from the child and when they check the number on the computer, they're shocked to see Murat registered as an employee of the AEI. Murat goes to see Fazil, the head of this AEI branch, to tell him that Murat and Oscar may still be around, but Fazil assures him that all the employees who used to be part of Project X are dead so the camera must have given them a false match. The next day, Murat's neighbor Arif asks him to find Oscar because they need someone who can help his sick grandfather. Murat tries to explain that Oscar is dead, but Arif doesn't believe it because he heard from a rebel group called +1 that Oscar is alive and hiding. To convince him, Arif shows Murat a picture of Oscar's tattoo, pointing out that it matches the symbols on the mysterious medicine. The next day Anton leaves a letter at the bus stop for Sule before meeting with Arif, who introduces him to Errol. He's capable of getting them into the AEI and giving them a system code to look for Oscar's profile if they pay him enough. Moments later Murat is at the AEI headquarters and the code he was given works well at the gate. A contact inside the organization opens the door for him and takes him to the admin room. Murat gains access to all the files, which say Oscar is dead. However, something strange about the pictures of the body indicates that it may be a lie. Then he tries to delete the footage of the store incident, but when he tries using his password the computer rejects it and Murat is forced to run away. When he walks by the bus station, the letter is still there. Meanwhile Anton and his team search Murat's home. ML pretends she knows nothing and hangs a red air freshener on the window as a warning. When Murat comes back from headquarters, he sees the signal and immediately runs away. Anton sees him and sends his agents after him. However, Murat takes a bunch of hidden corridors in the building until he loses his pursuers. Sometime later Anton secretly enters the restricted zone, which is full of talkers. He ignores them all to visit a particular house where his assistant is waiting. She thinks it's time for him to learn to let go. At the same time Murat walks to another neighborhood, where the +1 rebels bring down a wall with a huge explosion. Thankfully he doesn't get hurt and keeps going until he reaches a tattoo parlor, where he finds Oscar's tattoo design. Suddenly the artist jumps on him and threatens to kill him with a tattoo needle, but he lets go when Murat says he's a friend of Oscar's. Murat shows him the medicine and the artist confirms that's his design, but he doesn't know how it got there. He only knows that the mysterious medicine comes from the 6th zone. That evening Anton listens to the tapes he found in ML's apartment and confirms that Anton is immune to ARDS. The next day Anton is summoned by Fazil, who wants Anton to stop investigating Murat or he'll fire him. Anton pretends he's done and that he didn't find anything at ML's. Later Anton tries to access Murat's files, but he discovers they're classified. Meanwhile Murat leaves a coded message for ML. When she sees it, she decodes it using her hidden notebook and sneaks out of her apartment to reunite with Murat at Arif's place. He asks her for an old family heirloom, which later he exchanges for a fake ID to access the 6th zone. Errol gives Murat a haircut before taking a few pictures for the ID. Once it's done, they get ready to leave only to discover the AEI are outside because Anton is ignoring his boss's orders. The duo runs away while Anton and his men come inside to search the building. They follow a strange noise and open a locker door, where they find a hair clipper. This distraction gives Murat enough time to escape. The next day Anton returns to the restricted zone with a birthday cake. It turns out his wife and his son are talkers and he's keeping them hidden until the AEI finds a cure, which explains why he's willing to risk his job to get Murat. At the entrance of the 6th zone, Murat finds wanted posters with his face. The fake ID works but he still gets nervous and considers leaving. At that moment Sule shows up and kisses him, pretending he's her boyfriend to help him hide his face. They successfully cross the gate and Murat is shocked to see this part of the city is in a very poor state. Sule takes him to her hideout, where she explains she didn't help him out of kindness. She's part of +1 and the organization is looking for someone with immunity to help the world. Murat doesn't want to get involved and tries running away, so Sule runs to mingle among talkers and removes her headphones to prove a point. A panicking Murat drags her away and Sule reveals she's actually wearing earplugs. She lets Murat go for now, but first she writes some instructions on his arm so he can find her again if he changes his mind. At AEI, Fazil is informed that Anton is still after Project X, so he bribes Agent Haidar to investigate this without his superiors knowing. Meanwhile Anton visits his family again, not noticing he's being followed. His son has an injury and is bleeding quite badly, so Anton has to struggle with his wife to keep her back while he takes care of the boy. Then he goes to the sink to wash his hands and finally notices someone watching him through the window. Anton takes his gun and runs outside, but the person is gone. It was Fazil's assistant Kanan, who is already reporting the address. When Anton returns to work, his right-hand man tells him that Kanan has been asking lots of questions about him, which makes Anton suspicious. In the 6th zone, Murat goes back to his old apartment, where he remembers the happy days he used to have with his wife. When he falls asleep, he dreams his bleeding wife is in the apartment too. The next morning Murat is leaving the building when he's jumped on by a group of men, who capture him and take him to the +1 headquarters. They hold him down for an interrogation, thinking he's a spy sent by the AEI. Thankfully Sule runs into the room right before they hurt him and explains Murat is her friend. She also encourages him to show them the medicine he has so they can help him find Oscar. Afterward Sule admits she did read the letter from the bus stop and invites Murat to come to the recording of a radio interview, during which she shares her story. She joined +1 years ago because she believes the talkers are still human and the AEI does more damage to the world than the virus. After the interview, Sule and Murat take a walk together. When they come across a group of talkers, Murat makes Sule put her hand on his forehead so she can feel the temperature in his head rising as he hears the infected people's nonsense. That night Murat sleeps at the +1 headquarters. In the morning the organization's research team asks Murat for his help, revealing they've acquired a level 6 talker as a test subject. Murat starts considering helping them, but only if Sule helps him find Oscar. Soon a rebel comes with news: the medicine is being distributed from a hotel in the mob district. Sule and Murat immediately head to the hotel, where a gangster is recording a song. The receptionist tries to kick the duo out and an argument ensues, so the gangster fires his gun to make them stop. The receptionist gets shot in the leg, but before Murat can get hurt too, he explains he knows where to get more tape for the recorder. The gangster lets him live in exchange for the seller's address. At that moment Yasmin arrives with a medicine delivery and the gangster pays her generously for it. The medicine is made by someone named Lazarus and Yasmin is his dealer, so Murat and Sule follow her out. Unfortunately she's already in her car and after taking some of the medicine, she drives away. Afterward Murat agrees to stay in one of the +1 apartments. They give him a special machine used to test brain functionality and he completes the test in a second, which a human never did before. In the afternoon Murat and Sule go to the market and find Yasmin, who calls Murat Hot Skull. This confirms Lazarus is Oscar since that was his nickname for Murat. Yasmin licks Murat's ear for fun before throwing a bunch of riddles and math problems at him, which Murat solves immediately. As a reward, Yasmin gives him a phone so she can contact him later. In the meantime Kanan returns to Anton's old home and steals some of his research plus some of Murat's tapes. Suddenly she hears a noise and goes to investigate, only to find the room with the talkers. At that moment Anton appears behind her and takes her gun before dragging her away. As Kanan promises she'll keep the secret and that Fazil only wants to help, Anton remembers all the raids he's been part of and the way his team had to split families because of orders. Civilians never received them well and would always throw things at the agents in fury. Anton shows Kanan that Fazil has been hiding parts of the AEI's research, like the fact ARDS can affect children as well. Because of this, his family didn't give their son headphones and he got infected, then his wife got ARDS from him. A furious Anton tells Kanan to get on her knees as he aims his gun, but he can't do it and lets her go. Kanan reports to Fazil and gives him the stolen evidence, however she doesn't mention Anton's family. After work, Anton approaches Kanan saying he has a new tape, but when she listens to it she discovers it's nonsense from the talkers. Anton holds her until she's infected, and after taking any evidence from her pockets, he abandons her in the parking lot. At the +1 headquarters, Murat discovers Arif has officially joined the rebels. An argument is happening because some leaders think they need to get more violent to fight the AEI, but Sule points out that will make their reputation worse when they actually need to gain people's support. Then Anton gets a call from Yasemin, who gives him an address where he can meet Özgür. Sule and Murat immediately head to the address, and Yasemin calls again to tell them to solve the very hard math problem she left on a table. Once again Murat solves it in seconds, and Yasemin makes him open a safe. He guesses the password, thanks to knowing Özgür well, and finds another riddle. This one takes Murat longer to crack, and while working on it he tells Sule that he only became a mathematical genius after he received Özgür's treatment. When Murat finally solves the riddle, the duo rushes to the harbor, where they find the ferry Murat and Özgür used to take. They go inside, and Yasemin calls one last time to inform them someone will pick them up. Soon a man appears and makes them undress to check for bugs. Once they're clear, he puts bags on their heads and Sule is dragged away. Murat is taken to a shady neighborhood, where people place bets on a dangerous game where normal civilians must escape from a labyrinth before they're infected by talkers. Yasemin shows up and tells Murat he must choose between following her to find Özgür or saving Sule, who has been thrown into the labyrinth. Murat immediately jumps in and dodges all the talkers as he runs, quickly finding the exit, thanks to his genius brain. However, he goes back and follows some bloodstains to try to find Sule. The public is allowed to poke at the players to make the game harder, and Murat is hit, causing him to fall and lose his headphones. He tries covering his ears, but more talkers are released into the labyrinth, and their chatter makes his skull temperature go so high that he passes out. At that moment Murat is found by Sule and Özgür, who is very amused by his old friend's choices. When Murat wakes up in his friend's secret apartment, he punches Özgür and starts kicking him, but Özgür only laughs. Yasemin stops Murat and explains that Özgür took a new medicine that makes pain feel like pleasure. Sule announces she must go back to +1, and they give her a phone to stay in contact before covering her head with a bag again to drop her back in her neighborhood. When she returns to headquarters, she notices Arif and other rebels exchange notes in secret. She manages to steal one and discovers a coded message. Meanwhile Fazil sends Haidar to the address Kanan gave him, and Haidar returns with Anton's family in a truck. Back to Özgür, he says Murat is his biggest accomplishment, but Murat sees his condition as a curse and wants to be normal again. Nowadays Özgür lives a life of hedonism and only agrees to help Murat after having some fun. After Özgür shows off his lab, they both take some medicine and play basketball. Soon Murat starts hallucinating having roots instead of hands before seeing his mom and his wife with the infection. Murat breaks down and Özgür has to help him calm down. Afterward the friends share an honest conversation. Murat tells the story of how his wife self-deleted, and in return Özgür explains he couldn't contact him all these years because of Fazil. Back then Özgür had been a scientist working for the AEI and was forced to sign a fake report saying that talkers were conspiring to bring down the government. This report was used as an excuse to kill thousands of infected people. While the AEI changed hands, Özgür kept working on a cure in secret by exposing patient X to a high-level talker, but eventually Fazil learned about it. As the new branch leader, Fazil announced they wouldn't send talkers to rehab anymore and fired Özgür. They argued about the cure and Özgür tried attacking Fazil to keep him away from his research, but Fazil easily knocked him out and started a fire to get rid of all the evidence. Özgür woke up just in time to escape from the fire, but first he put his badge on a burnt assistant's body so the AEI would think he was dead. Murat is the infamous patient X, and even after hearing the story, he insists he wants to be cured. Özgür agrees to help, but first he announces they must have one last night of fun. In the meantime Anton goes around the 6th zone asking if anyone saw Murat, so he's told about the hotel. Anton heads there and interrupts the recording, causing all the gangsters to take out their weapons. At that moment the AEI arrives and arrests Anton, but they leave the gangster because he has a deal with them. Later at AEI headquarters Fazil tells Anton that he has his family, so if he wants to see them again, he must find Murat and bring him to Fazil. Anton is released, and when he gets in his car he finds Haidar, so he points his gun at him. However, Haidar explains they must work together under Fazil's orders, and if Anton tries to hurt him, his family will die. They return to Emel's house, and while a team searches the apartment, Anton helps her keep her notebook with all her codes hidden. He whispers to her that he wants to help Murat before these men find him. The AEI decides to arrest her, and before leaving, she says a few words in code for Anton. In the evening, Özgür and Yasemin take Murat to a club where Sule is waiting, but both she and Murat behave too awkwardly. Yasemin spikes their drinks and the duo ends up kissing on the dance floor. The next morning, they're shocked to wake up in bed with Yasemin. During breakfast Özgür tells Murat that he needs special equipment to study his brain, which he doesn't have. Sule tells them that +1's research team does have those machines, yet Özgür doesn't want to get involved with them. Murat gets angry because Özgür isn't capable of compromising and leaves. Later Sule